Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. Sorry for the little delay there. I was editing something. I had to edit the title of the video. Today we're doing, finally doing this. We are reviewing Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb. Now, if you guys know me, last week I reviewed the first 4 seasons of Phineas and Ferb, the original run from 2007 to 2015. And about back in June 5th and June 6th on Disney Plus and Disney Channel, they released the 5th season of Phineas and Ferb on Disney Plus and Disney Channel. Well, technically, they released the first 2 episodes on Disney Channel, and then they released all 10 episodes on Disney Plus June 6th, the next day. And what was kind of interesting is what I was originally planning to do was I was going to watch this show, like, watching the episodes on Disney Channel and reviewing them each week by week, but honestly, I don't think that would have been, like, the best case. So, what I decided to just do was just watch because all the episodes were already streaming on Disney Plus, I'm just gonna go ahead and watch them on my days off, because, I'm currently in summer school, and I had like a 4-day weekend this week, and I had a 3-day weekend next week. Mostly 3-day weekends. So I thought, why not watch 2 episodes per day of the days I have off? So that's kind of what I did, and I pretty much enjoyed every second of it. So, to give you my full thoughts on this show, on this season, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was another great continuation of Phineas and Ferb, the series, where it, like, I don't even know how you talk about this, because I would need to talk about the episodes, but what I really loved about it was that it feels like the show never really left. Where, to most of you that are new to Phineas and Ferb and are now probably going to go back to watch it or even rewatch it, the show is, you got these 2 brothers, Phineas and Ferb. It is summer vacation, and they are trying to build inventions to use most of their time for summer vacation. Along those same lines, their older sister Candace is trying to do whatever they can to bust them so that way they can get in trouble. But it never works, because these inventions keep disappearing out of nowhere, because their pet platypus, Perry the platypus, is a secret agent fighting this evil scientist, or as they call him, a evil pharmacist, and that evil scientist creates these inventions that always happens to make these inventions disappear. So, it's interesting in that regard, and you're kind of thinking, and if you don't know, that's kind of how the whole show is. Now, you're probably wondering, how does it work for the 5th season? Well, they actually do they actually use it, but they don't just do it all the single time. And honestly, that's my favorite thing about this whole season. They don't just do an episode where we're hanging out with Phineas and Ferb in the backyard. We're getting Candace, like, going to try to catch Mom, or waiting there. We're not always having Perry the Platypus trying to fight Doofenshmirtz 2 in Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated. There's different situations to where, especially like in the first episode, we switch up that formula to where we think it's going to be all this, we think it's going to be all that, but it's actually this, and it's actually that. And there's even, like, certain episodes where we get to focus on different things and go to different locations, and it creates a different vibe for different storylines, and even then, you even get to, like, spend time with other characters that you never thought you would, and even then, I'm kind of enjoying this. Like, I want to see more of this stuff. Like, I want to spend more time with this character. I want to spend more time with this character. Because as much as we love the main set of characters, it's more fun when we get to kind of spend a little bit more time with the other characters, and that's fun. That's awesome. Because as much as we love seeing them, the other characters getting the spotlight is also really fun. So I really enjoyed it. And even for the new stuff and the new adventures they decided to do with these characters, I thought were also really incredible. So let's just go ahead and just start talking about all these episodes here. So let's just start out with the first episode, which is Summer Blockbuster / Cloudy with a Chance of Mom. So this is the episode where basically establishes how long which was it between when Phineas and Ferb ended and when this season begins. Essentially, seasons 1 through 4 of Phineas and Ferb are like all the adventures they went on through all those 4 seasons. It was the longest summer ever, which, if you kind of think about it, that's how it is, because technically you go to the finale of Phineas and Ferb from season 4, they kind of confirm that like all those things, like across the second dimension, you know, the roller coaster, the dream about Phineas and Ferb getting busted, like all that stuff, the Mission Marvel adventures, all that stuff, that was all in one summer. Thus, in it being 104 days of summer vacation, which I don't really know how all of these episodes somehow fit in 104 days, which that's kind of crazy, not gonna lie, because the logic doesn't add up in there. Sorry, I gotta take a drink. So that kind of doesn't add up, but basically, these episode kind of opens with Phineas and Ferb and friends in school, literally on the last minute of school left, and basically throughout the entire school year, because their summer was so long and so filled with adventures, they're basically explaining throughout the entire year they're telling the stories of what they did over the summer, which it's kind of ironic that, like, because their summer was so big, they had to, like, lay it out in 9 months of, like, installments, which is kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. That it's like, we get to enjoy all of that, and basically, you know, summer is here, and basically, it's, like, introducing everybody, you know, Doofenshmirtz is doing his thing, Candace is getting ready for summer to bust the boys finally. Finally, this will be her chance. Another chance to bust her brothers. And it just sets the motion. It just sets the tone for everything that's coming to play. Bringing these characters back after 10 years of... I mean, technically, we haven't seen them in over 5 years because of Candace Against the Universe. So technically, it hasn't been that long. But it is still pretty long because we saw a movie with them, but it's not as special as the show. So yeah, it just establishes everything, bringing these characters back, and you know, Phineas and Ferb and friends, they're now in the backyard again, and they're just trying to figure out what should we make. And they're trying to bring out all these ideas. Buford mentions a Red Bull hot tub. At first, when I saw because they posted the first 9 minutes of this episode on YouTube, like, I think, like, 2 weeks before it came out. At first I was thinking he said Red Bull hot tub. But no, he said Red Bull hot tub. And I thought that was kind of funny. And honestly, Buford was hilarious in this episode, especially. And honestly, if anything, spoiler alert, because I might give my ranking for all the episodes at the end of this video. Episode 1 might be my favorite, just because it was, like, just the best. But, so yeah, they're trying to figure out what will be the next big invention we're going to do. And they have all these layouts of what we can do. And basically, Candace suggests that they do all of the inventions to have fun. And She basically does this so that way she can, because not all of these inventions can get dusted away. So there's got to be at least one that the mom can see. And here's a small, nice courtesy that I really enjoyed from the mom. She made a nice comment saying that, throughout last summer, I was so much out of the house that I barely saw you guys during the summer, and I barely got to see any of that summer fun you guys were doing. Which, it's true. She was out and about all the time. She was going school shopping. She was going on podcast walks. She was doing all of that. So she finally gets a chance to possibly hang out with the boys and kids during the summer, which in most cases, it's not entirely changeable, because at the end of the last episode, or even in some episodes, she would make the boys snacks. So it's not entirely that bad. So yeah, she just kind of plans to stay at home more and spend time with the kids, and take a family photo at the first day of summer. And you got this city block party going on. Everybody's just kind of having fun. The dad's waiting there to sell pies. You get the classic Perry the Platypus adventures, which we also get to catch up on what he's been doing the last 9 months. And essentially, because Doofenshmirtz became good at the end of the last season, Perry has been fighting scorpions the whole time. Sorry, I'm going to turn off my LED lights for a minute. Hold on. Sorry about that. But yeah, so Perry's been fighting scorpions for the last 9 months, because if you remember Doofenshmirtz at the end of the last season, he became good, so there wasn't really any reason to fight him anymore. But because we're now back to summer goodies, Perry needs to go fight Doofenshmirtz again, and it was a pretty fun return to see these characters back at it. It just felt right. But obviously, everything seems to feel all right in the world until Doofenshmirtz creates a new weapon, and that weapon, the Vaporizinator, vaporizes the mom. And I love the way it set the tension of we're not gonna be vaporizing the inventions that the boys are building. We're gonna vaporize the mom, and we're gonna flip up the tone a little bit. We're gonna flip up the formula a little bit. And so basically, the rest of the episode is basically no more fun. We gotta do whatever we can to save mom. So all the guys, they get on their little trikes, they get on their little party wagons or whatever, and we're trying everything we can to you got Phineas and Ferb trying to shape the mom cloud. So apparently we find out what happened to mom. She turned into a cloud. So I'm that's kind of interesting. And then you get Baljeet kind of calculating how long until she dissipates. And then you got Isabella and Isabella and Buford trying to get that balloon, that vaporized mom, and find out what's in there that we can get to maybe get her back to normal. And she also makes a little comment saying, Miss and my future mother-in-law is gone forever. I'm I didn't catch it the first time because she said it too fast, and I don't think there were subtitles, but that was funny. That was actually funny. I'm damn. They're bringing stuff like that back. That's insane. But, so yeah, they find the Vaporizinator. It's broken, unfortunately, but they're able to... But because Baljeet is super smart, incredibly fixable, he's able to fix it. So they fix it, and it gets even more awesome and epic where mom basically turns into a giant thunder cloud, into a giant cloud monster. And I'm this is insane. How are we going to save her? And they unfortunately do. In which, in some parts, I was kind of disappointed that they were able to do that, because I'm I was so hoping that this season would actually have some connectivity storytelling to where you can actually do a really good story. But obviously, I don't think this show is like that. And having a connected story for that long of 20 episodes for a cartoon series, that's a little weird. But I still really enjoyed of what was going on here. So, the first episode, awesome, and I really, really loved it. And then we get the second episode, which is Submarine, Sandwich, Submarine, and / License to Bust. So, the first episode is... So basically the first half is the boys make a submarine sandwich submarine, which basically, I don't know why they say submarine sandwich submarine. They just can call it a sandwich submarine. Like, I don't get the whole point of that. But, so yeah, they decided to call it a submarine sandwich submarine, and it's pretty fun, you know. I thought it was enjoyable. I wasn't as invested into the boys adventure side of this one, just because it feels like something out of a Mickey Mouse cartoon, like with the submarine sequence. But I still thought this one was enjoyable. But the other side of it, which was License to Bust, where you see Candace trying to get her driver's license and all that stuff. But all this is actually exciting, where you get Candace trying to get her license. Phineas and Ferb create this gecko gear, and it's pretty awesome. Like, it's actually pretty cool. It's unique. It's an interesting invention for them to build. But then also the song in here, License to Bust, is awesome. Even the Perry adventure in here is also pretty fun. And I even forgot to mention the Perry adventure in Submarine Sandwich Submarine is also really fun. So I would say overall episode 1 is still great and episode 2 is second best. Then we get Dry Another Day and / Deconstructing Doof. So Dry Another Day, so I guess the kids go luging, in which kinda is a little weird. They basically create like a whole wonderland to where they're like, it's basically like a whole water slide. I thought it was fun. It's not like, it wasn't really anything special for me. So I wasn't like as big of a fan of this one. The half episode of this one that I really enjoyed was Deconstructing Doof, where essentially they find a way to where Candace and Doofenshmirtz are seeing the same therapist, and they're telling these stories of stuff that they're struggling with, where Candace is struggling to bust her brothers, and Doofenshmirtz is always trying to get rid of Perry the Platypus and be evil. And the therapist is kind of like the both of them, where he's like he's connecting the dots. And obviously this would never work because it would reveal both the identities, which we have seen that many times before. And it's a fun episode to where you actually kind of see like how it would happen if they actually did almost get caught. So I thought this was actually a pretty interesting episode, and you're not doing the usual, Perry the Platypus stuff or the usual Phineas and Ferb backyard stuff. So this was a new way to form for this series for formula. And then episode 4 we get Tropey McTropeface and Biblioblast. So obviously this is an odd episode because I think half of it is also like, that's the thing. Both halves don't really work for me. Tropey McTropeface, I think, is a fun episode where basically the boys build a zoetrope, which I never knew what a zoetrope was until I saw what it can do. That basically it's the thing that you use to make films and animation. And Isabella actually makes a comment about that in this episode, which I thought was kind of fun. And, I don't really have too many positive things to say about it. Like the Zoetrope thing and Michael Bublé singing about it. That one was fun, and the Zoetrope kind of creating a life for itself out in the city. That was kind of nice. That was fun. Not too much to say about that, but it was fun. And then the second part where the kids make a bookcase. I mean, it was fun, but I don't really know if that was like the best invention. There's some cool action that they have on here, but I wasn't really invested into that one. But Tropey McTropeface was actually a bit better, but I'd probably say this is my least favorite episode so far. We get, and then number 5, we get a trip to the vet and more than an intern. So this episode, so this will be the first great one. I actually liked both episodes in this one because a trip to the vet, it's basically showing it has the greatness of both. Well, kind of, because the Candace stuff I didn't really care about when she wants to talk to Jeremy, but I liked that they're kind of going outside of the backyard, and they're still and Phineas and Ferb are still finding ways to do inventions. That they have to take Perry to the vet, and the vet is super busy. So what are we going to do? We're going to create a system that can occupy all the animals in the vet that are waiting. And it's awesome. Like, that's a helpful way. But also the Perry the Platypus adventure is also kind of fun because that's actually crazy to catch Perry while he's at the vet. And you create this impossible situation where it's kind of impossible for him to move. And they put this tracking chip on him, and I'm like, it's fun. So I really enjoyed that one. And then the other side of this is where we get the Carl episode where essentially working as an intern for a Monogram isn't the only job that Carl has. And that he actually works these other jobs. He is a pizza delivery. He delivers pizzas. He works at a restaurant. He works as a clown in a mall. He does all these other things. And what's so interesting is just to kind of show of how good of a job that he can actually do of, like, helping out and working. But Monogram doesn't take this seriously, and I think maybe for the first time they handled some of these Alka characters in a more respectful way. Because they tried doing this with, like, some of the other animal agents, and I just couldn't care for them. This one I actually cared about. And to see how much, like, Carl actually means to it. So I honestly kind of dug this episode. And I don't even think Phineas and Ferb actually appear at all in this episode. So that's kind of interesting, I won't lie. I think I think it's only because it's the night. It's a nighttime episode, really. So, yeah, I thought this episode was kind of good. Then we have the Aurora Paralis and Lord of the Firesides. Oh, okay, yeah. So this was another fire episode because once again it does what I wanted more of, where you have where you have Phineas and Ferb going on vacation. Obviously, it's summer vacation. You need to be going somewhere. If you're just staying at your house, staying in your backyard under the shade of your tree, that is a boring summer and building inventions. As fun as that sounds, that's not a very enjoyable summer. You need to be going on vacation. And once again, they do, much like episode 5, they do something interesting with this where they want to see, like, these northern lights, so they create, like, an air balloon, kind of like Up. But the Perry the Platypus adventure, it's also pretty fun. And it's exciting. And I really enjoyed of what they were able to do with that. And also bringing back Monogram's son and Vanessa back into the mix. Which is actually kind of funny because I thought this whole time before I watched, like, the episodes with Monogram's son, I thought that Vanessa and Ferb were always a thing. Was that not always on the table? Because if you watch Act Your Age, they get together. And even in the City of Love when they're going to France, they get together. But I don't know. So I thought that was a really cool episode, and overall just really cool, fun parody, Doofenshmirtz action. Lord of the Firesides was also an episode that I thought was very interesting. When you're talking about like side characters that like were interesting, like the stuff they did with Carl, I thought was interesting. Getting a more focus on Candace and Doof, I thought was kind of cool. And then you get something with Carl. The Fireside Girls was something I was not expecting. To where basically you have this like thing where Isabella is left in charge because the leader Fireside woman is absent because she's like sick. So Isabella needs to be in charge. And for some reason, they have like this whole cupcake exchange. And they can't seem to agree on anything. And somehow they're like always fighting, and then it like leads to like a war between the Fireside Girls, and they need to pick a side and bring the fire. The song that plays during this scene, it's honestly so epic and loud. I'm having so much fun with this. I'm like, this is insane. And then it kind of reveals that the reason they were acting like all this is because Doofenshmirtz and Nader was actually on their Fireside Girls' house the whole time, and that's why they couldn't cooperate with anything. That's kind of disappointing, but it makes sense because why on earth would all these characters just start fighting out of nowhere? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I appreciate it for what they were going here for here. Alright, so then we get to episode 7, and this is kind of another great episode for me, but it's also kind of mixed because it's a little weird. I like the second half of this one. The first half, I think, is... I'll say it's another great episode. So the first one is the Candace suit, where basically Candace is trying to find another way to bust her brothers, and essentially we reveal that Buford makes suits of people. And apparently she has like multiple suits of Candace. If I told you that when I watched the trailer for the new season and I saw a bunch of like these masks with Candace and with these suits of Candace, I'm like, what is this? This is weird. Like, this is weird. Like, and I was thinking to myself, like, are people being cloned as zombie? Like, is this the Doofenshmirtz thing where it's like, lots of me? Like, that is insane. But if you want to do what you can to bust your brothers, that's how far you're gonna go. That is insane. It's like, it's so weird that Buford has something like that. And the fact is, Candace and like Stacy, they're not weirded out that they have it, but like Candace like acknowledged it. Like that's insane to me. Something else I kind of enjoyed about this half of the episode was one thing I remember hearing about this. One thing I kind of heard about this season is that the characters are kind of, because it takes place like one summer later, the characters are kind of forming into their versions of they're forming into their versions of when they're in actor age. So like you kind of see you see Phineas kind of taking interest in Isabella more, which I thought was actually kind of interesting, because it's the first time where I've actually ever seen that, or especially in the Carl episode, I believe. where you kind of see them playing Rocket Ball League together, or whatever that game is, whatever, and you kind of see them together, which isn't surprising because they've kind of always been together. But even then, like, when they're going up in the giant pogo stick and it, like, goes up into space, and Phineas is, like, waiting for her reaction, and it's like, it's nice to be appreciated. Like, it kind of is bragginess, but you can also tell, like, maybe he's actually starting to feel her now. He's starting to feel her vibe a little bit. That's kind of my take. Okay, I'm gonna have to, I'm sorry, there's someone in my comment section. I'm gonna have to block this person. Okay, I don't know who you are, but you need to stop. There we go. So, and not only that with Isabella and Phineas, in some ways, I feel like a lot of you were wrong about Phineas not liking Isabella. Because you kind of look back on all 4 seasons, maybe the reason why he was, maybe the reason why he didn't seem that interested is because he was so busy building all these inventions that he was not able to express his emotions for her. And plus, he also did all these things for her, but technically, sometimes friends could technically do that. But I'd still say it was worth it. So then, but also onto that with Buford, because of him making these suits, which I think is very weird. If you go back to actor age, he's kind of artistic. And, he wants to go to film school. And so maybe that him building all these suits and him having, like, this profound way of life, it kind of maybe sets him up for that. But I don't know. I think the Candace suits stuff was kind of funny, but also creepy. But I thought it was entertaining. We then get Agent T for Teen, where basically it continues the plot line of Stacy knowing Perry's secret. Which I thought was a pretty fun episode, where basically we get to see Stacy become an agent, but also, like, put her skills to the test. And you kind of get to see them team up. And honestly, this is the best usage of them. It's just another great example of how to do a character done, like a side character done right, and have a story centered on her. It was cool. It was really cool. And so overall, I thought this episode was just solid. It was a solid episode. Solid actions, solid pacing, solid jokes. Just really good. And then we get the episode 8 with the Haberdasher, and out of character, Doof becomes a Mothman and the boys make a movie set. So I would say that, these are some of the fewer weak episodes for me. So essentially, in the first half, Doof becomes a Mothman, which I actually did think was kind of cool. I don't really know what more you could have done with that, but I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do for a villain and to make him a little bit more of a threat. But also, Perry kind of gets his hat bitten, which I do think is kind of weird because it's like, has this happened multiple times to where he had to get his hat replaced? Because that's a little bit funky, if I won't lie. But yeah, this episode is kind of solid. And then out of character, this is essentially where the the boys make a movie set because Baljeet was offered a movie role, and he doesn't know how to act. So they need to find a way to prove to maybe he can find a way to act and believe in himself. But not only that, he also has a hard time believing in what's real and what's not. He has a hard time imagining stuff. And I feel like that's kind of relatable, you know? It's, you know, and especially like if I want to be a movie director and I am on a set that I have my team building, how am I going to know, how are my like teammates going to know of like what's real and what's not? Like I don't know. And unfortunately, Baljeet doesn't get the part because it wasn't actually a main role. He was supposed to be an extra. So unfortunately, he kind of sucked. Even though he was actually really good, but he was going to be an extra. And the role that he wanted to get got already taken. So, oh well. And then we get episode 9 with the Chronicles of Meat, episode 42, Meet Me in St. Louis. I'm not gonna lie, I think along with Tropy McTropeface and Biblioblast, this is probably like my least favorite episode. Because if I'm gonna be honest, I felt like this was an odd episode because why are we still going back to the Meep stuff? Like, to be honest, like, throughout this whole episode, I was like, I kind of didn't really care. Because it's like, if you've been doing this like 1,000 times already, it seems like very odd that you're going back to it again. And it's like the third time, and they kept saying, like, they kept making a joke saying, we're not making it, like, this is an episode that we weren't planning on making, but we did. Like, it was a little weird. But I digress. So that's my thoughts on that episode. And then the final episode, which actually ended off on a solid note. It was a solid episode. No Slumber Party and the Ballad of Buddha Doof. So, I actually liked both of these episodes with No Slumber Party. So essentially, the kids are having a slumber party, but also Candace, Stacy, and Vanessa are all having a slumber party together. Well, not both groups are having them separate, but they're having a slumber party. I thought this was a fun one. It felt kind of cozy. I thought it was also kind of nice to see Stacy, Vanessa, and Candace all hanging out together, which is something that I don't think we've ever seen in this series before, but I thought it was kind of cool. But on the other side to it, the Perry adventure, you basically have Doofenshmirtz trying to spoil a TV show in which they have a parody of Friends in this universe called Acquaintances, which I actually think is pretty fun. And so he wants to be like the most evil guy and spoil everything. It's a fun way to do it. And even the movie theater that Phineas creates, it's fun. They even do like this Family Guy like cutaway where Vanessa's dad is kind of being annoying, and she's like, "Hey Vanessa, look, it's Jingle Bells. Listen." Like, he actually makes a sound. Like, how did he do that? Like, that's actually kind of funny. But I thought that was low-key fun. And then the final section of this episode is the Ballad of Buddha Doof, which I actually kind of enjoyed this one. Because essentially what this episode is that Phineas and friends are trying to get Baljeet to change his perspective on the Western genre. Which in some ways this episode kind of made me interested in the Western genre as a whole too. Because while they're trying to get them invested into the Western genre, Perry's Adventure is also a Western 2 to where we're fighting Doofenshmirtz's cousin, and if anything, I would say like every single version of Doofenshmirtz, like whether it's across the second dimension Doofenshmirtz or his cousin, every other version is so much better than the main one, because all these other ones, they feel more evil and they feel more like a threat and more creepy. Doofenshmirtz, he doesn't have that because he's just a doof. And he's like threatening to eat him and all that stuff. I'm like, this is creepy, but it works on its own. So I think overall, this episode actually kind of worked for me. It had a nice little episode at the beginning, and it had a nice, really good episode at the end. So overall, I just really dug this season for me. There were a few episodes I didn't really like, so if I would have to rank this season, I'm going to put number 10, The Chronicles of Meep, Meeting in St. Louis. I'm sorry, I don't care about the Meep stuff anymore. Number 9, I'd probably go with Tropey McTropeface and Biblioblast. Tropey McTropeface at least does it for me. Let's see, what other episodes we got? Let me see. I'm trying to see how I would rank these episodes. So number 9, Meet Me in St. Louis. Number 10, Meet Me in St. Louis. Number 9, Tropey McTropeface. I'm gonna have to say, so number 1 would definitely be Summer Blockbuster, because it's my favorite episode. It's the best one. I think number 2 would be the Aurora Paralysis. Number 3 would be A Chip to the Vet. Number 3. Number 4 would be The Candace Suit. Number 5 would be No Slumber Party. Number 6 would be Submarine Sandwich Submarine. No, actually, no, wait. Number 6 would be Submarine Sandwich Submarine. Number 7 would be Dry Another Day Doof, Destructing Doof. And number 8 would be Out of Character. So that's kind of how I rank it. So number 10, Meet Me in St. Louis. Number 9, Tropey McTropeface. Number 8, the Out of Character episode. Number 7, Dry Another Day Doof. Number 6, Submarine Sandwich Submarine. Number 5, The Candace Suit. Number 4... No, wait. Number 5, Slumber Party. Number 4, The Candace Suit. Number 3, A Chip to the Vet. Number 2, The Aurora Paralysis. And number 1, Summer Blockbuster. That's my overall ranking and thoughts on every episode of this series, as well as the season as a whole. I can't wait till we get more episodes of this season, because I'm overall digging it. I think it's probably the best Disney thing that we've gotten so far this year. Better than Thunderbolts, better than Daredevil Born Again. I just think it's overall been really great. So that is my overall thoughts on Phineas and Ferb Season 5. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you could like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.